The first-class cabin of the Boeing 787 Dreamliner glowed with quiet luxury as passengers began settling into their plush leather seats. Among them sat Marcus and Brielle Thompson, 15-year-old twins traveling alone for the first time. The siblings had been gifted this trip by their father, Donovan Thompson, the influential CEO of a multi-billion-dollar tech conglomerate, Novacore Systems. Seats 1A and 1B had been reserved weeks in advance, a symbolic gesture by their father to mark their step into independence. He believed the trip would teach them more than any textbook: how to move through the world with dignity, how to stand tall, and how to handle themselves even in the face of unfairness. Marcus leaned back in his seat, gazing out the window at the sky melting into hues of gold. His chest swelled with pride and excitement. Beside him, Brielle quietly thumbed through a novel their father had given her before takeoff, her demeanor calm, but her eyes sparkling with the thrill of their solo journey. "Do you think we're ready for this?" she asked, barely above a whisper. "Absolutely," Marcus answered with a reassuring smile. "Dad knows we are. This is our chance to prove it." Their moment of quiet anticipation was interrupted by the sound of deliberate heels clicking against the floor. A woman entered the cabin with a sharp air of authority. Her coat was camel-colored, tailored, and elegant. Her eyes scanned the cabin like a landowner inspecting her estate. Her name was Evelyn Monroe. She was white, mid-50s, and known across multiple airlines as a demanding platinum prestige flyer, a status she wielded like royalty. When Evelyn spotted Marcus and Brielle in the two seats she had come to regard as hers, seats 1A and 1B, which she had occupied on dozens of past flights, her expression darkened. She approached the twins with a forced smile stretched tightly across her face. "Excuse me," she said loudly enough for the nearby passengers to hear. "There's been a mistake. These are my seats." Marcus looked up, confused but polite. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," he said. "These seats were booked for us." Evelyn scoffed. "No, sweetie. I always sit here. Always. Maybe you're supposed to be further back." Her words weren't just dismissive. They dripped with condescension, as if she were speaking to trespassers in her private suite. A nearby flight attendant, Claire, quickly stepped in. "Miss Monroe," she began gently, "we've confirmed these seats are reserved for Marcus and Brielle Thompson. Their tickets were booked weeks ago by Mr. Donovan Thompson." "Thompson?" Evelyn repeated with disdain. "I don't care who booked what. I'm a prestige member. I've flown this airline since before these children were born. This is my seat." She turned back to the twins, now with an edge in her voice. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." Brielle's lips tightened. Marcus remained composed, though his heart beat faster. They had heard about people like this, who believed their money or connections gave them power over others. But experiencing it firsthand, in such an intimate setting, was something else entirely. A few passengers turned their heads. Most looked away quickly, pretending not to notice. The cabin, once a cocoon of comfort, began to tense. "Miss Monroe," Claire tried again, firmer this time, "these seats were properly booked and assigned. We can look for another available seat if you like, but these are not yours." Evelyn's voice grew louder. "I shouldn't have to argue with children over where I sit. This is exactly the problem with letting just anyone buy first-class tickets. No respect for status. No understanding of tradition." Her tone had shifted from entitled to openly contemptuous. She didn't say the words directly, but everyone could hear the unspoken message. They didn't belong because of their age, and perhaps even more so, their race. Brielle leaned toward her brother. "She's not going to stop," she whispered. Marcus nodded once. "Then we won't either." Evelyn, now drawing attention from across the cabin, raised her voice further. "Get the supervisor. Now. I want this handled before we even taxi. I will not be disrespected by this airline or by—" She paused, her eyes locking on the twins again. "Anyone pretending to belong here." The supervisor arrived, a woman in her 40s named Linda Park, known for her efficiency and problem-solving skills. Evelyn immediately pounced. "I'm being pushed out of my rightful seat," she cried. "I always sit here. These two are in my spot, and I demand they be relocated." Linda took a deep breath, trying to remain impartial. "Miss Monroe, I understand your frustration, but I have reviewed the manifest. The Thompsons' reservations are valid. They are seated correctly." Evelyn's face tightened. I'm a Platinum Prestige member. And they are passengers with confirmed seats, Linda replied carefully. We cannot override booked reservations to accommodate preferences, regardless of status. That answer only enraged Evelyn more. So you're going to throw away over 10 years of loyalty to this airline to please a pair of teenagers? This is absurd. From her seat, Brielle finally spoke, her voice calm and clear. What's absurd is thinking you can take what doesn't belong to you because you're used to getting your way. A ripple passed through the cabin. Linda tried to de-escalate. Please, let's keep this civil. Evelyn crossed her arms and turned to the other flight attendant. Fine. You've made your choice. Let's see what your CEO thinks of this when I call him personally. Meanwhile, Marcus pulled out his phone. His hands trembled slightly, but not from fear, from resolve. He texted his father with a quick summary, passenger trying to take our seats. Supervisor here, but not fully stopping it. Flight delayed. Donovan Thompson didn't need details. Within minutes, his office had reached the upper management of the airline. A message came directly from the CEO's office to the ground operations team at the airport: confirm and protect the Thompson twins. Resolve this now. Back on the plane, just as Evelyn thought she had worn down the crew, the cabin door opened again. Two men in tailored suits entered, both carrying identification from the airline's corporate security and customer relations departments. The taller one stepped forward. Good evening. I'm Anthony Green, Director of Customer Relations. Can you point me to Marcus and Brielle Thompson? The flight fell silent. Claire gestured to the front row. They're seated in 1A and 1B. Green nodded, then turned to Linda. We've received a directive from the CEO. These seats are properly assigned. There will be no changes. Then, turning to Evelyn, his tone sharpened. Miss Monroe, continued interference with this flight or these passengers will result in removal. Your status does not entitle you to override legal reservations. Evelyn's mouth opened, then closed. Anthony Green's eyes didn't blink. You may take your assigned seat, or you may disembark. From further down the aisle, murmurs of agreement echoed. A man in business attire spoke up. They shouldn't even be asked to explain. They're in the right. Green turned to the twins. On behalf of our airline, I sincerely apologize for what you've experienced today. You've handled it with maturity and dignity. The tension began to drain. Evelyn, red-faced and shaking, stomped toward her seat in row 3. The curtain was drawn, and the plane finally prepared for departure. As the engines hummed to life, Marcus leaned toward Brielle. You okay? She nodded slowly. Yeah, just tired. Across the world, news of the incident would quietly make its way through corporate and media circles. Not because someone wanted a scandal, but because truth like this couldn't stay quiet forever. And at 35,000 feet, the cabin now quiet and bathed in soft blue light, two young teenagers sat calmly, their heads high, not just flying first class, but soaring with the kind of grace that couldn't be bought.